So we're planning on taking about 30 to 45 minutes with this, depending on how many questions there are. With that, let's get started. So InsightWorks, we've been around for about 10 years now. We've actually been working with Business Central Cloud since 2017. So it's almost 4 years, 3.5 years, back before it was even called Business Central. So we've got actually a lot of experience with the platform, and we've got a lot of applications on the platform. And of course, today we're going to focus on the ones that we provide at no cost. We're based in Canada, here in Western Canada, but we do work globally through partners globally. Any of these free apps you can manage on your own, or you can talk to your partner, whatever you like. We'll go through at the end some links on how you can get started on your own. But feel free to talk to your partner about these things. Your existing NAV or Business Central partner, if they're one of our resellers, they should be able to help you out. Otherwise, they can get in touch with us, or you can get in touch with us, and we can do our best to help you out. All right. With that, let's talk about some of our applications, our solutions for the system. Now, all of these work with the old version of NAV 2013 all the way up to Business Central Cloud. We're not going to focus too much on these. If you have questions about some of these things, go to the website, check them out. What we're going to be focusing on today are these guys at the bottom here. These are all the free applications we make available on Business Central Cloud. So if you're on Business Central on premises, these probably aren't going to be of any use to you. There are some exceptions that we make. If you have one of our other products, we might get you one of these guys, but this is all for Business Central Cloud. Now, I'm going to give you a quick overview of these things in a sec, but I'll just briefly talk about Wms Express here because it is sort of the light version, if you will, of Warehouse Insight. So we'll mention Warehouse Insight during the session. It's our full WMS solution. It's on a subscription basis, so it's a paid application. But if you need everything for warehouse management in Business Central, that's the guy we go with, but we're going to focus on WMS Express. So let's start there. So what is WMS Express? Well, free version of warehouse management for Business Central. So, when I go into AppSource, where you get all these apps from, and look around, there's probably at least a dozen, I think maybe more, maybe up to 20 of these warehouse management solutions, barcode scanning solutions on AppSource. And the vast majority of them, except for maybe a few, don't give you anything more than what WMS Express gives you, and maybe even less than what WMS Express gives you. So that's why I say, why pay for warehouse management? If you need the basic activities in the warehouse, which is receiving, shipping or picking, and inventory counts, WMS Express gives you that, right? It's free, there's no registration. Anyway, I should mention that any of these free apps, there's really no registration required or anything like that. We're not going to hound you for the name of your firstborn or any of that kind of stuff. You're going to install it and you're going to be using it within minutes, okay? So why would you go out and pay for a warehouse management, a barcoding solution when WMS Express exists? If you need something more capable like Warehouse Insight, that gives you a lot more capabilities for more advanced warehousing, great, go ahead and grab that thing. But in the meantime, WMS Express is really the guy to use. All right, Graphical Scheduler. There's also paid versions of this type of application out there as well. And all of these things are good. But again, this gives you everything you need to visualize your production schedule, to do drag and drop scheduling, to do all of those sorts of things. And it's, again, free. I should stop saying it's all free because it's all free. The nice thing about this is it's got a lot of features that some of the other applications don't have, like color coding. You can create your own personalized views. You can plot data from things other than production orders if you want. So we have what we call an experimental mode right now before it's fully released, where you can go in and you can plot data from any table you like within Business Central. So it really is a very extensible tool you can use with your own projects, all that kind of stuff, and you just plug it in and go, okay? Document drag and drop. This one's a pretty broad range. Almost anybody working in Business Central could use this. Even if you don't do it a lot, just having this capability is kind of handy. So really all it does is on any page within Business Central that has an attachments fact box, you can now drag and drop documents into that. So you can grab an email or an attachment out of an email and just drag and drop it right into Business Central. It'll automatically upload that and attach it in Business Central. So it'll store the file in Business Central, or it'll store the file on SharePoint. And then of course, when you're in SharePoint, you can do all sorts of fun stuff like trigger workflows and all that kind of stuff with Power Automate. And all of a sudden this becomes a pretty significant document management tool, right? So if you're talking about maybe manufacturing where you have an engineering change request, you can dump that in there into SharePoint and then trigger off a workflow for approvals or all sorts of stuff. So it really is the first step to getting those documents into SharePoint and triggering off those workflows. But if you just need something simple, customer sends you a PO and you want to keep track of that on the sales order, no problem. Drag and drop that PO out of your email into the sales order, it's attached, and you're good to go. Okay, now, once you've got that, so we're talking about sales orders, now you want to print out your sales order. You want to hit post and send or post and print and have it generate a packing slip in the warehouse and an invoice on your invoice printer, or who knows what you want to do. Right now, the printing in Business Central is very interactive. So if you want to print documents, it's going to pop up and ask you where you want to print them, all those sorts of things. This cloud printing through PrintNode allows you to automate that printing. So if I hit print, there's no user interaction required after that. It's just going to go to whatever printer has been specified in the setup. And that allows me to do non-interactive printing. So I can hit post and have, a label print on one printer and packing slip print on another printer and so on and so forth. Now, the connector, so this is called the PrintNode connector. That part is free. You do have to go to a company called PrintNode, sign up with them. They have a free plan and they have paid plans. Paid plan is like $9 a month or something like that. And you set that up with them, and then we use their infrastructure to do the printing. Now, Microsoft soon is coming up with something called Universal Print. It's already exists, but it's going to be available for Business Central that will do some sort of the same thing. So PrintNode connector, may go away, but for now, it's definitely a must-have. And it does a bunch of other things. It allows us to do scale integration and raw printing, if you know what that is, for printing labels through ZPL and that type of stuff as well. Okay, so that's the PrintNode. Now, the last one is a little bit more technical, which is really the barcode generator. So we have a bunch of sample reports. If you just need a purchase order with a barcode on it, and it doesn't have to be anything special, we have a bunch of sample reports like that based on the standard Business Central layouts. But really, the idea behind this is it allows you to add barcodes to your own report layouts, which means that you can go in and create item labels, or you want to put a barcode on your existing document or whatever you like. Now, Business Central does have fonts, and down the road it'll likely have the ability to do these 2D barcodes as well. But this gives us a lot more capability as far as generating code 128 barcodes, the data matrix barcodes, QR codes, all that kind of stuff consistently. Again, there's no cost to it, and there's a bunch of sample reports that come with it as well. Okay, so that's more of a development tool than anything, but again, those sample reports are kind of handy. So let's jump in and have a look at what this stuff looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just going in and talking about how you would actually install these applications. So I'm in Business Central here, and what you would do is actually go in and go to your extensions. So many of you likely know how to do this, but I always get questions on how do you get this stuff? Well, this is one of the easier ways to do it. If you go into Extension Marketplace, and you can get to this directly if you just go to App Source in the browser as well, but this can sometimes be a little easier to manage. So we come in here, and it brings up all of our applications, and we give it a sec, and it's going to allow us to search. And so if I come in here and I'm just going to do a search for InsightWorks, and you can see all the applications that are available, and anything that's Get It Now is free, and you can grab it, install it, and get up and running right away. So those are all our applications, and you would come in and say, for example, grab Wms Express. It'll install it, and then you can go and configure it. So after you've installed it from AppSource, any of these applications for the most part, you're then going to go in and you're going to run the assisted setup. Okay, so where are we here? There it is. Sorry, been a while. So assisted setup, what this allows you to do is come in and run the setup routine for those various applications. So I'm going to run you through Wms Express because that is one of the more popular applications. We get, I don't know how many days, 100 downloads a week of that thing or something like that. And so you'd run the install, and after you've run the install from AppSource, it'll come up and it'll show setup Wms Express. And you can see all these other things like Graphical Scheduler and all that kind of stuff that gets installed. But if we go through this Wms Express install, it's somewhat representative of everything else. And when we do that, it's going to come in and it asks me, hey, you've run it once already. Do you want to run it again? And I'm just going to say yes here. I'll give it a sec to load, and it's going to come up, and you can go through this thing. And now with Wms Express, I didn't really mention this earlier, but there's 3 versions of Wms Express. There's standard, basic, and full warehouse. And what that means is you can use Wms Express with any location configuration you like. So whether it's no bins, sales orders and purchase orders, and that's all you're using, all the way to directed put away and pick, which is the advanced warehousing in Business Central. You can use Wms Express with any of those. And just to take a little bit of a side trip, this is the Wms Express website. You go to wmsexpress.com, and if I click on versions, it's going to come down here and give me all the different versions that I can use with Wms Express. Okay, and this sort of explains where you would use one versus the other, right? So basic, where you don't have any, well, you might have bins turned on, but you don't have any inventory documents or warehouse documents. If you have inventory putaways and picks enabled, you use this. And if you have the full warehousing turned on, or at least warehouse receipts, warehouse shipments, you would use this guy. Okay. Anyway, this thing gives you a whole bunch of information about the limitations of WMS Express and all the advantages, everything else. You can go there and check it out. But to go back to my thing that I just closed, to go back to what we were looking at, sorry about that. In here, in the install, we're going to go through and we're going to run through it. I'm just going to choose standard here. We hit next, you choose the language, you hit next, you enter your contact information, you hit next, and here's where you set up the information that you want to use when you first start up. So you can use WMS Express with any location you like. You can have multiple locations set up. This wizard is just going to allow you to set up the first location as a starting point. So you choose the warehouse location you want. Then you'd specify your login name that you're going to use. And here, for the time being, we use the web services key to connect. By mid-year, sort of mid-2020, you'll just use your normal login for Business Central login. But for now, what you do is you come in, you hit this, you select this field, you just click on it, doesn't sort of indicate that you've selected it, and you hit Control-C and it says field value copied. And you would actually paste that web services access key in here, and that's going to generate a barcode that we can scan to log in. Okay, so you do all that, and when you hit next, it's going to go and install this thing. I'm not going to run through it because it does take a few minutes, and it will actually generate a barcode that you can now scan to configure the device. Okay, so that's the next step. After I've run the install for WMS Express, I'm actually going to go in and set up a handheld device to use the system with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually switch over to a camera here. So I've actually got this device in my hand. So you're actually seeing this little Memoir-K device that I have in my hand. And just for fun, I'm also going to show that on the screen. So on the right-hand side here, you see, the screen from this device, and you can see me, me touch it and all that kind of fun stuff over here. And if you get the hardware from us, this is how it comes loaded. It's all preloaded, all pre-configured, and it's got the app and everything there that we can use to get this thing going. And there's lots of different devices you can use, right? So again, buying the hardware from us, it comes preloaded, but there's tons of full style warehouse devices. There's this little guy, which is under $600. All the information on this, by the way, is available on that WMS Express website. Or if you just want to try it out and use it on a phone or something like that, this is my personal cell phone, my old Pixel. And if it loads up and it recognizes the thing and says, hey, you're not a scanner device, you have a camera, it's going to have this little button here that says, use camera to configure, and I can tap that, and it's going to fire up my camera to scan the barcodes. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, back to this device here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, this thing arrived in, in the mail or whatever, UPS shows up, and I'm going to configure this thing. So what I do is I start the application, and then this is the sheet that the system generated for me when I ran the setup, right? So it's got all the barcodes. If you have a device that doesn't have it installed, you'd scan that barcode to install it. I scan this barcode to configure it, and then I scan the last barcode to actually log in. So that's what I'm going to do here on this device. I'm just going to scan that configuration barcode there, right? Little beep, and it pops up and says now log in. I'm just going to hit this remember me, and then I'm going to scan my login barcode at the bottom there. That's it. And then we wait a second, or 3 seconds or 10 seconds, and we're done. What that did was it configured the device, connected it up to Business Central, loaded all the applications on the device, and now I am live and ready to go with Business Central. Okay, so that's it. I can now start doing barcode scanning in Business Central. And again, the way I've got this set up is I've got what we call the basic system set up. So I receive against purchase orders, I pick and ship against sales orders, and I have my standard inventory count here. Okay, so those are the applications you get. To configure this, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. I won't really go through this in a lot of detail, but the default configuration password is 1234. All of this type of stuff got loaded in when we scanned the barcode, but I can do things like, change the font, or if I'm using the camera on the device, I can come in and specify the different types of barcodes I want to read and things like that. Okay, so for the most part, it comes in pre-configured and you scan the barcode and you're good to go. Now, how does this thing work? Well, let's go through some examples of this. I'm going to actually start with receiving here. And what this allows me to do, as soon as I hit this, and again, I don't have to do anything in Business Central other than run the Wms Express setup. And when I open this up, this is going to give me a list of all the purchase orders in the system I can receive against. So these are all the, I think by default, the released POs in my location that I'm set up for. You can also set it up to show the open POs as well as release POs. And then from here on mine, I can just use, the little arrow keys that I'm touching at the bottom there to move up and down, or I can touch the screen or whatever you want to do to load up a PO, or I can come in here and type in, a couple digits of that PO or something like that and filter the list or whatever you want to do on here. I'm going to grab this particular PO. Now, if you're using advanced warehousing, like warehouse receipts, you can also see the warehouse receipt number, all of that kind of stuff on here as well. All of these fields are set up in Business Central, but you can decide which ones you want to hide or show on the handheld device. Okay. Now, with Warehouse Insight, you're able to go in and add whatever custom fields and things like that you want. With Wms Express, you're limited to the fields that are there pre-configured. But I'm going to open up this purchase order 03 here. It opens it up. And the first time you do it, by the way, it takes a second to load because it's loading the application from Business Central. So if I back out of there and do that again, right, it's pretty much instant. And that's it. Like I am connected live with my Business Central Cloud instance, and we're good to go. And now what I'm going to do is just simply start scanning. I'm going to actually choose a different purchase order here for fun. Let's come in here and choose this guy here just for fun. All right, that's a good one. Now, what it does is it shows me over here on the screen, this is the quantity that that I have left to receive on this particular PO. And down here, this last item here, you can see I've already set the quantity to receive as 5. So one thing to keep in mind when you first load the system is that if you've already got that quantity to receive set, which is the default, so if I've cut a PO, that quantity to receive might already be set. These are all going to show up as 0. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Any new POs that you create, this will automatically come in appropriately like this. But any existing POs, you might have to go out and blank out that quantity to receive in Business Central so that I can actually scan. Or I can just leave it the way it is. And in here, I can just hit enter instead of scan a barcode and change that quantity. And we're good to go. And that's it. I've updated Business Central with that quantity. Now, what I did there was I just used the arrow keys and everything else to choose something and enter a quantity. You don't really want to do that. You want to do barcode scanning, right? Now, if the vendors haven't barcoded things for you, I can do that. I can just choose an item, tap the screen, choose an item, enter the quantity, or I can come in here and I can hit print and I can print whatever report I want to generate barcode labels. So these can be your own custom reports, or it could be something that you use with our Barcode Generator app. We have a sample item label, and we can generate whatever barcodes we like from that. So here's an example sheet generated from the Barcode Generator. This is a sample. You would actually use one that's the label report to generate barcodes you can actually put on those items and scan. So that's how we can use the Barcode Generator with Wms Express and everything else to do these types of things. Now, assuming everything is barcoded, at this point, all I have to do is scan a barcode to get going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this, this 1968-S barcode here on this piece of paper. And as soon as I do that, it finds it Optionally, it shows me a picture of that item, right? So if you're doing your own barcoding, that'll show you, hey, you scanned the wrong barcode. It's not a chair, it's a pair of socks or whatever, and you can fix it. And then I enter the quantity I found in that particular box, and that's it. We've updated Business Central with that quantity, and we're good to go. And that's really all there is to receiving. Now, if you have bins enabled, you would see, the bin code in here potentially, so you can scan the bin that you're placing it in. All that kind of stuff is possible as well. In my location, I don't have bins enabled, so I'm just receiving against that PO directly the way it is. Okay. If you have inventory putaways turned on, I would be scanning into an inventory putaway. If you have warehouse receipts turned on, I can scan into a warehouse receipt and then do a secondary warehouse putaway using WMS Express. But that's really all there is to it, right? I scan a barcode, enter a quantity, it updates Business Central in real time. I can use it to print from the devices, to actually print barcode labels if I like, all sorts of things. Finally, I can also post from this particular device. And you can enable that so that as soon as I leave the screen, it posts, or I can manually go in there, hit post, and it'll post that particular receipt. So I don't actually have to go into Business Central to manage any of this stuff. I can do it from the handheld device. Now, there's also a question about lot numbers. Yes, I can also receive lot numbers and serial numbers from here as well. Now, none of these items on this particular PO have lot numbers or serial numbers. If you want to see how that works, the video that we have online for Warehouse Insight goes through how that works, and it'll show you how you can receive lot numbers and serial numbers. But lot numbers and serial numbers are fully supported throughout the system for receiving, shipping, all of that kind of stuff. Okay. All right, so that's basically it. Now, shipping is exactly the same thing. It's picking. I would simply go through, scan all the items that I want to pick, and then I can post the shipment. I'll briefly show you that just for fun. And then we'll do the inventory count. So I can open up one of these, documents, the sales order 14. This could be, and again, if you're using transfer orders, you'd want to use the warehouse version, because then you can do transfer orders as well. But at this point here, I've already gone through and scanned everything. You see there's nothing left to scan on this. And you can set it up to hide everything that you've already picked. So that would show up blank because I picked everything. But let's say I'm going to come in here and just clear this out for fun. Right? So I'm just going to update that. And let's say that I have to actually go out and scan some of these items to actually record how many I'm shipping. So I'm just going to zero these out. And now let's say I open this thing up and I'm ready to start picking this particular order. And again, could show the bin locations if I have that set up. But here I'm just going to come in and, again, scan one of the barcodes. And this, by the way, is why a scanner device is much better. If you use a camera, you can scan with the camera, but it's really slow to aim it, get it focused, everything else. These little devices, and again, this guy here, little rugged device with a camera, everything else, swappable battery. This guy's like under 600 bucks, right? Anyway, so there it comes up and asks me for the quantity, and let's say I picked 5 of those ready to ship, and we're good to go. I've now updated Business Central with that quantity. I can post this order, I can do whatever I like, and I'm all set. Right. Last thing, real quick, I don't want to make this just a WMS Express overview, but let's talk about the inventory counts. Now, the standard inventory count that you get with the system works with the physical inventory journal. And it gives us a few different ways we can count. One, you can go in and calculate counting period for cycle counts, or calculate inventory for full physical counts. And then all of those items get added to a batch, and you load up the batch here on the handheld, and I can scan against those items that are already listed there. Or I can have a blank batch, and I can just open up that batch. It starts out blank, and I can just scan everything I find in the warehouse. Okay, so I can do both ways. If you want to capture lot numbers and serial numbers during the inventory count, you'll need to go to the advanced inventory count. So we have another module called advanced inventory count. It's an add-on. It is a subscription-based add-on, but that extends the counting capability of Business Central pretty significantly, not just for lot numbers and serial numbers, but for a whole bunch of other capabilities that it provides. Okay, now I'm just going to, for the basic count, I'm just going to open up this batch called Team 1 here. And I've got a few items that I've already counted. And again, what you would typically do, since I don't have bins enabled, I'm just going to come in here and touch it properly. Come on. And I'm going to just hide that bin column field because I don't care about it. I'm just going to scan the items. And now to do an inventory count, all you do is you walk up to the item that you want to count. You scan the barcode. Let's do one that I haven't got on that list just to show you what it looks like. Let's do this guy here. So scan a barcode, again, optionally shows me the picture, and then I come in and I enter the quantity I've counted, and that's it. That's how you do your inventory count. You scan the bin if it exists, you scan the item, and you enter the quantity, and I've now added this to the physical inventory journal, and I can go into Business Central, review the adjustments, review the discrepancies, and post this if I need to. Simple as that. Okay, so that's the standard count. If you want more information on the advanced count, which again is way more capable, check out the online videos and things like that, and they'll give you some info. But that's really all there is to, WMS Express. The different versions will give you different icons here for applications, right? If you have the advanced, or like the warehouse, or the basic warehouse, or the standard, will give you different applications, but all basically work the same way. Okay. All right, so that's a little on WMS Express. We've got a few questions here. Let me see if I can zip through these real quick. And yeah, as far as posting goes, you can have everybody on the floor receive everything, and then somebody in the office can go and do the posting. Now, with WMS Express, you can't actually modify any of these menus, right? If you go to Warehouse Insight, it gives you the ability to disable or hide menus or add menus, all those sorts of things. Express doesn't give you the ability to change it. So this post button will still live there. You could disable the ability to post from the handheld through Business Central security, if you like, but that post button will still live there. So yeah, you could have everybody scan in everything, hand in the paperwork, and somebody else posts it, or you could disable their security to prevent them from posting from the handheld just in case, or whatever you like. And then there's a question on using this with dynamic ship, and that's a very good point. It's almost like I would ask that question myself. But anyway, yes, you can use this with dynamic ship, and that's actually ideal because use WMS Express to your receiving, your inventory count, and your picking, and then dynamic ship looks after the carrier integration, printing your shipping labels, all of that kind of stuff. And now you've got a full warehouse management solution end to end from receiving out to shipping, and it's the cost of dynamic ship, which is whatever, a couple $100 a month. Like that's pretty sweet. Now, to use it properly with dynamic ship, you would typically turn on warehouse pick with WMS Express. So the warehouse pick allows us to go out, scan everything, register that pick to say we've picked it, it's ready for dynamic ship, and then dynamic ship takes over. But you can also use it in the configuration I have it here now, where I simply scan to the sales orders. That works fine too. Okay. All right. And another question. So yeah, there's a question on the standard count. I can't post from the handheld. For the standard count, there is no ability to post the count from the handheld device. I do actually have to go into Business Central to review the adjustments and actually post from here. So there's no post menu on this thing at all. I would scan everything in, and then within Business Central, I can look at that physical inventory journal, run the test report to look at the discrepancies, or export to Excel, or whatever I want to do, and then post it from within Business Central. Okay, so that's a little bit on WMS Express. Hopefully that was worthwhile. I spent a little more time on it because it tends to be one of the more popular products, because it adds a ton of value, right? Anybody working with inventory should have at minimum WMS Express, right? Your vendor should be barcoding. We can read UPC codes, all that sort of thing. And actually, one thing I should mention, that even if you don't have the cross references set up for your UPC codes and all that the vendors are sending you, it does actually have the ability to build up those cross references as you're scanning, right? So in the screen here, if I scan a barcode that it doesn't recognize, right? I just scanned some random barcode. Oh, it did recognize that one. I've done this before, so it actually recognized that thing. Let me scan this guy here. Okay, so I scan a barcode that it doesn't recognize. So what does it do? It says, hey, I don't recognize that barcode you scanned. Which item is that supposed to match up to? And then I choose the item it matches on the PO. You'll notice it only brings up the ones that I haven't entered quantities yet for. And it allows me to assign that barcode as a cross-reference to one of the existing items. So you can build up that cross-reference list as you go. Okay, all right, that's good. There's a question on pricing for the full version. Contact your partner for that, or you can get a hold of us directly, and we'll help you out with pricing and everything out on the full version. But it's cheap. It's anyway. Okay, so that's WMS Express. Let's There's another question on can it match up a vendor item number on receiving? Yeah, as long as you've got the cross-reference set up, it can do it. So G10 on the item card or cross-reference set up, or the barcode is the item number, it'll work. You can also put lot numbers and serial numbers in the barcodes. You can effectively put anything you like within that barcode, or the vendor can put anything they like in that barcode, and we can pull it out. It uses the same barcode scanning rules as our full warehouse insight product. So it's very, very capable, can read any barcode you throw at it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about Graphical Scheduler, right? So I'll come in here, and on the Graphical Scheduler, what this allows me to do is come in and again, view all of my, by default, it's set up for production orders. I can view all of the production orders in the system and drag and drop. So I don't have a lot of data here, but I can choose one of these guys and it will highlight, all the predecessor and successor operations and everything else in green, and also draw these little lines if you like. Now, when I change the color, that's really when I selected, but you can also have it set up to change the color based on the status of any of these operations or orders. And what that allows us to do is you can plot your planned orders, your firm planned, and your released orders all on one chart, and you can have different colors for them. So okay, this is a planned order and it's going to interfere with one of my released orders. You can also change the color of the operations. If it's finished, it could be green, or if it's late, it can be red. All of those sorts of rules can be set up, and that's just configuration. We can also plot different data sources on the same chart, which means I can plot things like work center absences, which is how we mark work center and machine center downtimes. I can plot shift patterns. I can plot whatever I like on the same chart. And the way that's set up is just through these views. So I can come in here, set up any view I like with all sorts of options. And I don't want to get into this in too much detail, but I can come in, it's got a whole bunch of default options you can set, the height of the screen, all of that kind of stuff can be set up. And then we can set up these color styles. So we can say, hey, when it's late, it's going to be red and silver, and when it's released, it's these colors. All of this kind of stuff you can set up. You can save that view and you load it up, and you can see whatever you like. So you could have one view that says, show me all my planned and released orders to sort of do a what if, and then another one for operational, for execution, which just shows me my released orders. The text that pops up here is also all configurable as well. So you can set this thing up to work the way you want to work, to provide you the information you want. And you can also come in and I can hit details to open up that production order. Or if I want more granular drill down, I can come in and drill down to almost anything on that particular production order right from here. Okay, so that's basically it. Now with the drag and drop stuff, it's fairly straightforward. If I take this guy and I say, I want to end it sooner, I drag and drop it, and as soon as I drop that, you can have it set up to automatically reschedule all the other operations accordingly. Okay, so this one I have to commit the order, and as soon as I do that, it's going to reschedule things, but I've got that full drag and drop capability on this thing. I can come in here, I can change the zoom, really anything that you want to be able to do with a production scheduler. For the most part, this thing will do for you. Okay, looks like we got a few questions. There's a question on, can you use it for service orders? The short answer is yes, but it's not fully supported yet. So we do have the ability, when we come in here and I create a view or edit an existing view, when I add a data source, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that we can add. And this custom table thing, what that allows me to do is go in and point to any table within Business Central, including service orders. So technically we can plot the service orders there, but it's not as comprehensive, like it's not going to allow me to assign resources and things like that directly from the chart. But we can go in and plot a whole bunch of different things within that scheduler. Okay. There's another question on can you make it less granular? Well, yes, so there is. If you just want to see, if you don't want to see it at the production order level, you just want to see capacity used at the different departments, one of those data source views that I had actually has that. You can just go ahead and add a data source and see it like that instead if you prefer. Or if you want to see it on a larger, date range, I can come in here and I can zoom out. I can, show it for the next month or year or whatever. And this kind of gives me a more, sort of higher level view over a longer time frame. Okay. All right, so that's basically the production scheduler, or the graphical scheduler, I should say, primarily used with production, but again, can be used with a lot of different data sources if you want. Okay, and can it be added to the start page of a custom role center? Probably. I don't think we've ever tried, but yes, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. Might need a little bit of advice or help from us, but it should be possible. Yeah. So if you wanted to log into a role center and just have this chart, starting at the current date or whatever, with all your late orders turned red, that should be possible. Okay, your partner could likely do that, or you might need some assistance with us. Yes, and so there's a question on that drag and drop. Absolutely. If I drag an operation, if I haven't set the production order to be all scheduled manually, if I drag and drop that operation, it will reschedule all the other operations in that production order as well. Okay, so it does automatically reschedule things when I do the drag and drop, and that's using the standard Business Central logic, right? So it's the same as if I opened up that operation and changed the start and end date on that operation, it will impact all the other operations. It's the same thing with the drag and drop. If you have it set to schedule manually, it works a little differently. I can drag and drop these operations largely independently without rescheduling any of the other operations within the production order. One other thing I should mention on that, to deviate a little bit from the free stuff, we have a tool called Wms Express. And Wms Express is an advanced planning and scheduling tool. So the graphical scheduler, is great if you want to do things manually. If you want to look at your schedule, if you want to drag things around manually, that kind of stuff, no problem. But Wms Express eliminates the need to do that manual scheduling. It generates the schedule that's going to be the most effective for your specific environment. Okay. So Wms Express, if you go to schedulingfordynamics.com, it has some information on there, and we'll actually generate the schedule for you, and it'll do things like take material availability into account. It'll take, setup times, all that kind of stuff, and generate a more optimized schedule for you. Okay. Yes, and Wms Express is finite capacity scheduling, is what it is, and you can put any constraints you want on it. Reason like labor, material. It can do setup minimization and sequencing. It's a very advanced planning and scheduling solution. Not free, of course, but if you want the basics where you can visualize the schedule, drag and drop stuff on here, Graphical Scheduler is a great little tool. Okay, now let's talk a little more. Well, actually, let's go into some of the stuff that I was doing before. I'm going to go into one of these sales orders, and we'll briefly talk about actually, you know what? Let's go into one of the ones that I messed with on the handheld. I think I was on 14 here. Maybe, yeah, 14. So in here, this is one of the things that I scanned on the handheld device, right? I went into this particular sales order on the handheld device. I scanned that thing. I entered a quantity of 5, and you can see it's updated in Business Central. That's just, to prove I didn't lie to you, and that it is actually updated in real time with Business Central. And keep in mind with that Wms Express, I had that scanner in my hand. Again, if it comes from us, if we sell it to you, it comes preloaded. All I did was I started the app, I scanned 2 barcodes, and less than 30 seconds later, I was able to actually start shipping and receiving on the handheld connected up to Business Central. That's pretty slick. Anyway, what I wanted to do when I got into this was more show you this dock extender thing, right? So dock extender, if you've got it installed, any attachments box gets this little icon here. And with dock extender, you don't have to go through the assisted setup. There's a manual setup for it, but it comes in here and there's some very basic setup. The default is it's a document attachment. Again, I can store it in SharePoint if I like, okay? And there's a bunch of options for, if you drop the same document on there, do you want it to rename or cancel it or do whatever? Very basic setup, very little setup to do. Once you run it, install it, this thing gets here, and it shouldn't be all that surprising. I can take a document, drag it, drop it, and this is one of the options whether it pops up this message or not. And if I say yes, there's the document that I dropped, it's loaded, and we're good to go. If you have it set up to store to SharePoint, it'll actually create a record link here that points me off to my SharePoint repository for that document. And you can do multiple documents too, right? If I come in here and I want to grab those 4, I just drag and drop them over. And, if I open it up, there's all the files are dropped in. They're in Business Central. I can open them. I can do whatever I want with them. Simple as that, right? Not all that, well, I think it's kind of magical, but, very useful little utility. Sure, I could go into attachments and I could come in here and click on it and say, add, whatever it is. I don't even know how to do it because I never do it. But I could come in here and add a new document and all that kind of stuff. Why would I bother? I just drag and drop and we're done, right? Simple as that. And again, can store it in SharePoint as well, which is way more valuable if you have any of those workflows or anything else set up. Simple as that. There's a question on taking a picture and attaching it directly. I'm not sure if that's for Doc Extender or WMS Express, but with Warehouse Insight, you are able to take photos from the handheld device, and those will automatically upload and attach into Business Central on whatever document you're working on. WMS Express doesn't provide that capability, but Warehouse Insight does. From Doc Extender, there's no way to launch a webcam or anything to take a picture from Doc Extender. It's just drag and drop, right? The Warehouse Insight, yeah, you can take a picture from the device. It'll automatically upload and attach. Okay, so that's Doc Extender. So the last thing, that I wanted to talk about real quick was, the barcode generator. And again, this is more of a technical tool, but it is actually handy for generating your own labels, right? If you're using WMS Express or anything else, and you want to go in and print out your own labels and things like that, Barcode Generator is a good tool. Actually, this is the second last thing I wanted to talk about, PrintNote as well. But in here, now this version here is going to be available early March 2020. If you installed Barcode Generator today, you won't get as many of these sample reports that come with it. So you can see if I want a pick ticket with a barcode on it, that report is available. All of these different reports are available for you for fixed assets and all that kind of stuff. All of the source code for these reports is available to you. So if you want to take one of these and tailor it to your own needs or just see how that label was added onto the report, no problem. All of the code for all of these and the layouts for all of these reports is available. And there are some kind of nice ones, right? Like, yeah, there's a basic item label you can use to print from the handhelds, and even more fancy ones. This is an example of if you want something fancy like a Wms label, you can come in here and, oops, I'll just do it for one item and generate some fancier labels if you like. But again, these are just standard Business Central reports. You can do whatever the heck you want with, and it generates these barcodes using the barcode generator. Again, these can be code 128, code 39, data matrix like you see here. And if you're not familiar with data matrix, they're a lot like the QR codes, which we can also generate. They fit a lot of information into a very small space. Or if you make them larger, like you make this barcode 2 inches square, I can scan that from 50 feet away with the right scanner. Right? Anyway, so those are the different things that come with Barcode Generator. But it is, essentially more of a development tool to allow somebody to come in and build reports with barcodes on them for you. Okay. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about was back to, let's say sales order. If I come in here and I want to come in and I want to, print the confirmation, or if I want to hit a print button and print a packing slip or a pick list and an order confirmation and something else, or if I want to come in here and I want to do a post and send and post this and print the packing slip and the invoice and a whole bunch of stuff on different printers, that's kind of hard to do in standard Business Central, right? It's going to pop up and want to prompt me each time. The browser is going to want to prompt me each time for where that print goes, all that sort of thing. So what we do instead is that print note capability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and just show you how you would set this up. So all you need to do to set up the print node connector is you grab this API key. And where does that API key come from? Well, you got to go to that company I said called printnode.com. You'll sign up with these guys, right? So they have a bunch of different plans. Well, I guess I shouldn't have gone there. Should have got a pricing. They have a bunch of different plans you can use to get set up. And they've got a free one that's very light, or basic one. You'll set up your account with PrintNode. You'll do all the things that they ask you to do. There's an app you need to download and things like that. But it'll give you this API key that you paste in here. Once you've done that, you're able to come into this printer selections, and this printer selections is standard Business Central. And what it allows you to do is come in and say, hey, when this particular user prints this report, I want it to go to this printer. And that's one of my network printers. And if they print this report, it goes here. So basically, if I had a print button and I wanted to print these 2 reports, they would just automatically go to those printers without any additional user interaction. And this one here, any user printing the the carrier label report always goes to my Zebra printer here. So the way this works is I can come in and I can say if it's order confirmation report or whatever I wanted to, it's doing there. Oh, that's the quote, sorry. Let's do 1305. I can come in here and I can specify any report and choose the printer I want it to go to, and away we go. And then what happens when I go out and actually go to print these reports, it'll automatically pop up and tell me that it's going to the warehouse printer, the showroom printer, and everything else, and there's no additional interaction I need in order to print that. The next release of Business Central will also allow you to select these printers when I'm going in and printing that document. So right from the Business Central print preview window, I can actually come in and choose the printer I want to print to based on the printers that are coming from your environment. Okay, so these are your network printers that are showing up here. And we can also get fancy, right? I can come in here and just cancel that and go in there and, this one isn't set up. I can come in there and choose the number of copies or the page size and all those sorts of things that I want to use as well. Okay, so that's the basics of the print node setup. Very easy, almost a must-have if you're doing any sort of non-interactive printing, or if you want to print labels from a handheld device, or if you're using dynamic ship and want to automatically print the carrier labels or read from a scale or any of those sorts of things, you'll want to set one of these guys up. That's about all I wanted to cover off today. Again, let us know if you have any questions or contact your partner. And with that, hope you have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content.